Families. I've recently learned, or I think I've discovered, and we all discover, that I think all families are dysfunctional. I think that's actually the functional definition of families. And that if you have a family that everybody loves each other and they all live in the same house forever and there's never a fight, you are not normal. Right? You are the dysfunctional family. And I actually think that the normal mode for families is to disperse and carry the gene pool out into the world. You know, that's a fundamental thing. So, okay, families. Now, I should just say families are, of course, it has a use for human families as well. But more importantly, we, as humans, we function in groups. I don't know if you've noticed that. We haven't all come to do this day on Jigsaw, and you don't all require a private booth with partitioning up so you can't see or hear each other with your own sort of feed coming in through Jigsaw. If you were leopards, you'd want that, otherwise you wouldn't come. Now, that's important to understand. We are very, very social creatures. We're extremely social. And indeed, given the choice of your own private booth where my voice in this feed's just coming in, you can't see anybody else, and this situation, I'd like to think you'd prefer this situation. I know I would. We are very gregarious, we're very social. And everything we do, almost everything we do in groups. And one of the difficulties we have is, you know as well as I do, you can get a good group and you can get a bad group. And you never really know. And it's not a matter of the people in it, it's something to do with that magical mix, isn't it? You can have a group and it's just really good. And then one person who might be quite quiet in that group leaves and another person comes in and all of a sudden the whole group is no good anymore. It doesn't work. So we have groups that we work in, and we have all these different sorts of groups. We've classified them. We haven't done it officially, but we've done it in our heads. We have the concept of family, which is our primary group that we're born into. And I like to define family as any group where there is no out ticket. You've bought the ride for your whole life. Even if you leave them and never see them again, they're still there. So family is about emotional input, negative or positive, which you have to deal with. Then we have all sorts of other groups. We have gathering groups where you have a group of people who go off to pick berries together. In other words, a group that will work together for a common good in a non-competitive way. And we want social skills and people who can tell jokes and people who are good company, and then that whole day of picking berries or going out and doing a working bee together or building a barn or putting a company together and working together in an office. It's a gathering group. Then we have the hunting party, right? The warriors and the hunting party, and that's any competitive group that we're part of. So all sporting groups, teams, are hunting parties. And what you want and what you value in a sporting team or a hunting party is individual ability, and you don't care if your champion footballer has a rotten sense of humour and is not very polite. You really don't care as long as he can or she can kick the damn ball into the goals, right? So what you value in a hunting party is totally different to what you value in a social group. Then we have tribal elders. Alice belongs to some of the tribal elders of this building, right? Whether she likes it or not. Those people who are appointed in some way, manner or form to make decisions on behalf of another group of people. So all governments, all committees, everything are tribal elders. Now what we value in tribal elders is steadiness. Not being rash. So what we value in tribal elders is totally different to what we value in a hunting party, totally different to what we hunt. You get the idea? And then we also have what we call a social or play group or peer group, which is really what we've got here. Very loose group. I'm not talking about your morals. Right? In terms of to be honest, let's talk quite frankly, we don't want to get into each other's emotional lives and realities. How we function in this group is we all have a certain amount of social decorum. If someone starts to throw a tantrum, that really is not on, is it? I mean, we expect a certain amount of adult behaviour. We may not get it, particularly from me, but there's certain. And the thing is, suddenly Alice has to rush out of the room, and we never see her again, which I would be sad about that. But it's not a major crisis. Very loosely grouped, a group of people coming together to learn or explore, play or study, to learn something, with very loose connections, people coming in and out all the time. Now, As we come together as a group, we all come with our chart. Whatever group we form, we come with our chart. And then they take this group in the room. If we had more time, I'd do this. I'd put you all into Jigsaw so you could see it. We all come with a chart. And your chart has planets in natal places. And we can take, what Jigsaw will do when it's analysing a group, it will take each one of the charts of the group, and it will take each one of the planets, and let's just say it will take Lawrence's Saturn, and then it will take all the Saturns around the room, all the Saturns, and it just has to look to see if all those Saturns will form a harmonic pattern, if they're all forming the same aspects to each other. Or, it could do that with every planet, or it can take Lawrence's Saturn, and it can test it with, I've forgotten your name. Bernadette, that's right, God, I should remember that, sorry. It can test it against all of Bernadette's chart to see if it forms any nice tight aspect with anything in her chart. Once it's got that, it can then go to Alice and check Alice and see if those two form a relationship to her chart. And it's got 3. If those 3 form a relationship here, if those 4, those 5, you see what it's doing? It can take it. You can do millions of calculations, but being a computer, it doesn't mind working hard. I've gone to bed at times and left it chewing over something, come back and it's still working on it the next morning. That's all right, keep going, that's fine. And I've asked it to analyse sort of 800 charts in that way, looking for a particular pattern. I mean, it can do it. It's got nothing else to do. I want to go to sleep. Right? Okay. Now, let's say it finds that, and it will find a pattern. Let's say it finds a pattern amongst us. And as it finds that pattern, let's say, it's Lawrence's Saturn and Bernadette's Sun and something else along those lines there. So we're all contributing one of our planets. But when we all add one planet from our chart, we all form like a circle around the horoscope. We all form, like it might be a 7-pointed star, it might be a 7th harmonic pattern, or an 8-pointed star. It all forms a pattern. Right? And if that's the case, that's almost like lock-in. Dang, clicks in. And the group will work, but will work via the harmonic that's being used. So if we come together and we're all a 6th harmonic, which is the sextile, then it flows, it's easy, it's gentle, and indeed this group to me feels like a sextile group. It's a nice, relaxed, gentle feeling about it. If it comes together and it's an 8th harmonic pattern we all form, then that's the semi-square. It's a bit scratchy. Somebody's a bit irritated, and maybe there's a bit of tension. We're not getting things done fast enough, or maybe we're running out of time and I'm panicking. There's tension and stress. It's not flowing. Right? Maybe it's a 7th harmonic pattern, so we're all intense and passionate, and Bill's getting more than I am, and and getting worked up about things, whatever. Right? If it's a 5th harmonic, pattern we all form will come out with a whole new body of software as we leave the room. Highly creative, right? Now, each one of us will contribute to that pattern, and what we contribute, we'll talk about the role we play in the pattern. Look at this group. I'm probably playing the Sun or the Saturn role. Do you know, I'm the up front working. Roy's also playing a role like that, because he's offsider. Paul's provided all the technical material. Thank you, Paul. I mean, free of charge, and set it all up. Just fantastic, right? He might be contributing the Uranus or the Mercury or something like that. Alice is making sure the kettles are boiling, so she might be contributing the moon. I mean, I'm just guessing, but you get the idea. You're all contributing something, and what you contribute is what you give to the group. Now, if we put them all into Jigsaw and we ask it to analyse it, we must ask one other question. We must say, we've just said this is a play group, a peer group, a learning group. So Jigsaw says, oh, right, well, that means it's really relaxed, so that if Alice being the moon, if she's a bit annoyed being the moon, she can leave. She doesn't have to deal with that problem. It's more relaxed. If we were a committee of some form, tribal elders, then it's going to delineate the pattern. It'd be the same pattern, but delineate it totally differently, because we've got a different agenda that we're dealing with. If we're all getting a rah-rah talk from me, the coach, and you're all about to go out and play football and try and kill the other university, then it'll be you could all have the same pattern again, but we would be delineating that differently. Obviously, the person who contributed the Mars would be really important in such a group. Do you get the idea? Now, not only can we do that with your whole chart, right, but once we've done that, and that's basically that's giving our first rough group. The second thing that's really important is that's how we come together. We can then go and we can focus in on it quite tightly. And we can look at not just your planets, we can keep doing that, but we can also look at every single one of your midpoints, and there's 78 of them, all of your midpoints. And we can check Lawrence's midpoints against all of ours. Or we can check Bill's against all. In other words, it doesn't matter who we start with. We can see, do we have one midpoint that's actually just locking in as a pattern? Because if we have, that's going to be immensely powerful. And whether we know it or not, whatever that midpoint and the harmonic's talking about is what this group will achieve. It'd be nice if that was achieving what we wanted it to achieve. But how many times have you been on a committee and it's turned into a hunting party? It's turned into a witch hunt, and then we'll get so-and-so because they said that at the meeting and we're going to get them. Hang on a second. We're tribal elders. We're not meant to be a competitive... Do you get the idea? How many times have you had a committee that's turned into a social group where no work happens? I'm sure Roy has bumped into that, being the president of the AA. Right? I'm sure he's well versed in that. I mean, I'm just using the sense of the committee. How many times have you gone into an office and you're working in an office and it's really productive energy? Or how many times is it nothing but a pain in the butt and you don't sell anything or do anything? In other words, we're so unconscious of this, but every time we put a chart into the equation, another whole pattern will form, which will actually force itself out into the expression of the group. So all the work in the family is what I call group dynamics, and it's all the work that I've done on working with groups and the astrology of groups, because up to that you could do a composite chart, which is fantastic. Composite charts are unbelievable. You can do a multiple composite chart. You can do that in a solar file with 4 or 5 charts. But once you go past about 4 or 5 charts, the mathematics breaks down in the composite chart. You can't do it. It's not, the maths breaks down. The logic's there, but the maths breaks down. So unfortunately, groups come more than 3 or 4 people. I have a committee of 8 or so. So this is Jigsaw's approach to it. Now, they're human groups, but just as we've had all of that with human groups, you can have a set of stock market prices. You might have every time the gold's peaked on the market. And that's a set of data. And in a sense, that's like a family. That's a collection of data. And you might want to see is there a common pattern in that collection of data. So the family will handle that as well. So this family module is actually a pattern-seeking module, but it's also designed to work with human groups. And if you're working with a human group, it's got about 300,000 words worth of text in it, so it will print out reports on those human groups. So this is the journey I'm going to take you on, and we're going to meet the Kennedys. Right?
Those that are left?
Yes. Yeah. And I might add, when you're putting a family group together, now this is a human family, death dates are just as relevant as birth dates. Don't ask me why, that's the way it is. Also, I've known families that don't work, can't get a pattern forming until you put the dog's chart in, or the cat or whatever. And so don't underestimate. You think of all the living souls in your household. Don't be species biased, right? Just sort of be embracive. I mean, whoever sits on your lounge suite watching telly with you, if the dog's there, then they're part of the family. All right, while you've been having a cup of tea, I've loaded up the Kennedy data, opened it up. It comes with Jigsaw, and here we have the Kennedy data. You see the 2 assassination dates I've put in there, because death dates are just as important. But we have Joe Sr., we have Mother, we have the boys Edward, Kennedy, Robert, then we have the girl Caroline, then we have JFK's wife Jackie, we have Ethel, who was Robert's wife. I think you can, if I get this wrong, someone can correct me. We have JFK's son, and then we have his other son, Patrick. You have Patrick and JFK Jr. JFK Jr. is the one who just died a little while ago, or a few years ago. This one died in infancy. Okay, so that we've got the family group. Now, Roy would love me just to click auto straight away, and I probably will just for fun. Right? So in other words, we can do the auto thing, just like we could replicate, or we can do it all step by step. I'll reverse around. We'll click the auto, so you just see what happens, but then we'll actually have a look into the manual as well. So brace yourself, and here we go. First of all, it's going to ask, you've suddenly said auto. I said, oh, right, I'm doing auto. And it says, oh, what sort of group have we got? Because it's going to give me totally different text depending on what I select here. Because for all the reasons I've said, because a planetary combination in a family has to function differently to if it's in a hunting party, to if it's in a tribal elder. Do you know, like, totally different. So we have families. It was very interesting to write this short definition of family. relatives and or any other long-term emotional relationships in a person's life. So they're the emotional contacts that you can't let go of. Hunting party, a group that forms a team to compete against others and or strives for one goal or victory that can be won or lost. Gathering group, a group that works together, whether they are business associates or friends, who prefer and hope to work in a relaxed and friendly social atmosphere. So they're not competing each other for best salesman of the month. Player peer group, uncommitted groups that either socialise together, friends, or pursue a common interest such as a class of students. Tribal elders, any group that makes decisions on behalf of others, committees, governments, management teams. Others, a group of data like earthquakes, stock market movements, weather details, and so on. Right? So that's, you're not going to get any delineation text with that, or very basic, because it's just other. It's not alive. All right, this is a family. We know that, so we'll click family. But if I clicked on one of these, I'd get totally different text. Right? Hit report. Now, what it's doing is it's scanning the family through a whole range of different, looking for patterns. It's deciding what patterns are strong, and then it's hunting those patterns out. It's now scanning the patterns it's found to find which is the best pattern, the most complete pattern, and when it's found it, it produces the report. Faster than a speeding bullet. Well, we'll do a little bit of that manually later, right? But I like to watch it. When we actually did that, Graham said, we can kill that screen. I said, no, that's half the fun.
It's a little bit too fast to take notes, though.
Yes, but I just love speeding it. Okay, so you can print these out and you can sell these to your clients. You can give these to your clients. I mean, that's the idea of them. You've got just a reminder that it's actually a family group, so you've just got a text, a general text there for a family group. Who's in the group? That's important to know what charts you put in there. Then there's a basic introduction, just saying what's really going on. And then the first thing it does is it says introducing your group. It will take your group of data and it will look at all the planets and midpoints and angles in every person's chart and add them up and find out which sign is the strongest. And there's 154 points in Virgo for this family. So when it's a family, we actually get a family motto. So we get, it's Virgo, and the motto I link to that is truth conquers. I mean, that's just me. You don't have to take the mottos. I just think it's interesting.
It conquered them in the end.
Yeah, it conquered them in the end. Yes, thank you, Roy. So it talks about just the members of a Virgo family. And because families we can't leave, we can leave physically, but we can't leave spiritually or emotionally, then because we can't get out of the journey, then normally it goes into some form of mythic unfoldment. So now all of this is about the mythology of Virgo, and it's about the Book of the Dead and Osiris, that's the mythology of Virgo. And then there's characters in the mythology, and we can actually link these are the characters that will be found in the family. Jigsaw doesn't know who's doing it, but there will be the traveller, the one who is deceased. I think that's JFK. Or it could actually be the older brother who died in the war. Do you know the member of the family who's dead? The Thoth, the one who knows truth and nothing but truth. The Ma'at, the person who's trying to give a softer version of Thoth. There's Osiris, probably Joe Kennedy, and so on. So this is because this is Virgo. These are the types of roles the family members will take. What the family is on about. This little paragraph here, journey, is the meaning of life for this family. How the journey that they go on.
Is this based on the Virgo?
This is all based on Virgo, so this is totally different for each sign.
So the family is born and lives in a field of worry and anxiety.
Yes.
That is for the Kennedys.
That's the Kennedys. Yeah. It's for. I mean, there's 12 myths. Obviously, there's 12 zodiac signs, so your family can be one of 12. So it's a generalised statement, but it is really. I find it very, very valid. Okay, so then once it looks at that, and we can go into then
Look at the house emphasis.
the house emphasis. Ooh. How strange. You know, yeah.
Have you got, for all those charts, you've got time data?
Yes, because if any untimed, then it will not include it in the house emphasis. So it won't include it. I can't remember if it doesn't do house emphasis at all or just will leave that one chart out. I just can't remember off the top of my head. So, yeah, I mean, the Kennedys, if we take all their midpoints and planets and look at the houses they're in, They have more in the 10th house than anything else. And as I said, it's pretty, I mean, it's like, obvious. So we have what it means to have a family with a 10th house, a family that goes for glory. The shadow of this family is an obsession with achievement. This paragraph is not written for the Kennedys. It's just written for a 10th house family. You should see the British royal family. They have an emphasis on the 7th house. They're very concerned about who they marry.
And they always cock it up.
Yeah, they always cock it up. That's right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Okay, then each person's role. Remember I talked to you about we could take Lance's planets with Bernadette's planets with Alice's planets, not the midpoints, and just look, and we could have all different planets, but we could get one planet in each chart forming a pattern. This is what this part is on the report, each person's role in the group. So here we have, there were 12 charts in it, there were 19 hits. It's an 8th harmonic pattern. Remember what I said? This is probably a 6th harmonic group. It flows. We're not at each other's throats and so on. This is an 8th harmonic. Tension and stress are the key words of this. So this family is a bit workload stressed and a bit competitive, shall we say. Okay, so Pluto is contributed by the daughter and the wife. That's interesting, isn't it? They hold a lot of power in the family, covertly or overtly. Neptune, we were talking about this in the break, is Joe Senior, Neptune. He's the bootlegger. The Neptune person moves at the centre of the web of the family. Empathic to other members' ups and downs, acting like litmus paper and flowing with the emotional energy within the household. He's a very important figure. And this is talking about the other world, but in his case it's the bootlegger. I didn't want to say this family member is the bootlegger in a general report, but Rose, the mother, is Saturn.
She's very disabled. She's quite disabled for a lot of her life, wasn't she? She's very Saturnine.
Yes, very restricted. And the son is Edward, the younger, and then actually the young son of JFK. In the Dutch royal family, the son is the heir to the throne. The son person can be the son child. Do you know a family can have the favourite, that sort of thing?
When John F. Jr. died to Bernadette, it was
Yes.
in 1999, shortly before the Grand Cross, the conference at Plymouth.
Right.
And the American astrologers who were there had this very emotionally charged meeting. Because it was like the sun had been lost, like
yes.
the sun of hope of the future.
Had
this
been
was the
lost.
final death knell of the Kennedys.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Felt that
Yeah.
from them,
Yeah.
the more liberal ones.
Yes. Yeah, he was the heir to the throne, so to
Yeah,
speak.
it was the hope that maybe JFK's image would be regenerated and this one wouldn't be assassinated. But he killed himself, of course.
Yes. Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, families are just,
But the roles as well would be duty, wouldn't it? Saturn would be the duty, the dutiful wife.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Also disabled as well, so she's
Restricted. We've got different members here going along. The midheaven is Robert the brother. The assassinations fit into the midheaven. Is something's public in a family is going to show there. The moon is Joan. The north node here. We're just clicking through. Uranus is Patrick again. So then it finds that, and then it says there's one member that doesn't fit in. See, there is one group member who doesn't fit into the pattern, but his orb is a bit wider, and it's JFK, and he contributes his ascendant. So, I mean, maybe if we tweaked his ascendant birth time by a few minutes, it would lock it in. He would be the ascendant. The person who is the ascendant person in the family is very aware of the public image of the whole family. What's the ascendant person? It's the person who they take their rank from. Do you know, like, and he made it. He became president. This pattern has one vacant point. If a pattern has a vacant point, it's almost pulling something in to fill it. And probably I haven't got the chart of the dead brother in this group, but there's probably, I'm sure it would have been filled because they were so complete in their own right.
What about like a brother-in-law or
well,
a
it could be. I
mistress?
mean, I haven't got the whole thing. I'm sure it would be there.
The daughter who was
Retarded.
yes.
Yeah. So this is the roles that people play in the family, and I think you can see with the Kennedys, it yields some quite insightful results. Then Jigsaw's gone and has found is worked on all the midpoint levels to think, we put this group together, these are the roles, but what are they actually doing? What's going on? And it's worked with that, and it's found once again another 8th harmonic pattern. And now this is a Jupiter midheaven pattern. The strongest pattern when you put them all together is Jupiter midheaven. This family would teach all of its members to strive for their own personal success with nobility and honour. There will be success in this family. This is right, and it's 8th harmonic. There's tension around this. And then it looks at the different members who are contributing to these patterns. And then it's saying, but there's 4 people who are not fitting into the pattern. So Jigsaw then rushes off and looks for other Jupiter or midheaven midpoints that will lock it in to them. So here we have Dad contributing the Pluto-Jupiter midpoint into the pattern. Power.
It may well be that Joe's deal with the mafia led to JFK's assassination. This is the most
Point. And
thing.
yeah. And here, look, this person is almost fanatical. You will be president. So he's adding the Pluto-Jupiter. Edward was the North Node midheaven. He was the one, of course, that got drunk and drowned the woman off the bridge and so on. So he's contributing that. JFK Jr. is the moon midheaven. This is the heir. Do you know? This is the one we love. And JFK himself is the node midheaven. Very similar to Edward. But of course they're contributing almost both sides of the bell curve. Do you know, like one's giving the fame and then one's giving the disgrace? And then the vacant points again. Well, the vacant points are really important because if you put your whole family in and you've got vacant points and your son brings home his new girlfriend and her sun or moon or something or ascendant is one of these vacant points, your mouth will start making the wedding arrangements. I mean, you know, just give up then and there and just because, like, boom, that person's important.
What exactly is a vacant point? How's it help?
I'll show you as we go through.
And what about the sisters, Joan Shriver? Is she in that?
No, no. No, I can show you. I mean, as I said, there's 13 people in it, and you can add more people to it. Now,
What did you say the maximum was that you could put?
20 or 30 or so. I mean, really, with the speed of today's computers, there's no limit. You can put in hundreds, and you can just leave it to run and work. And it will say, you know, this is going to take a while, but you can go off to bed. So there's no limits. It's just it will take longer and longer.
Well, you know, if you're doing it for a blood family, it will become a bit cumbersome to get a report like that. But if you're using it for the mundane sense of doing midpoints on highs and lows in the stock market,
then you would, absolutely, yeah. And I'd click other then, and then you're not trying to generate text.